So when you're recording and things, how do you use effects in the studio? Are you using the effects on Pro Tools, or do you actually using the effects units on your board and things like that?
Yeah, so I have Pro Tools on my computer, but I personally, just over years of having to deal with, oh, Pro Tools is crashing today. Oh, my plugin isn't working. Oh, I'm getting latency. Oh, where did that noise come from? I'm just tired of all of that. So I record into my Zoom H6, has plenty of inputs. So I record a direct line from the guitar amp, a direct line from the bass amp, and then I mic the guitar amp. So I have three channels at least, and I record everything into the Zoom, and then I do mixing and editing after onto Pro Tools. So I may add compression, EQ, and reverb in Pro Tools, but as far as effect, and I don't really consider those effects really as much as like distortion or something like that. So anything like that, I'm just doing on my board for sure. And like I said, I'll kind of have one song that will just feature, this song is just going to have tremolo and distortion on the whole song, and that's just how it is. And then this song is going to be a clean song. This song is going to be just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So just try and vary it up as much as possible
Mm.
in a recording situation.
And you've spoke about the amps you're using. So you're using two amps, one for bass and one for guitar. That's great. But if you could use any amp and guitar combo, what would it be? I mean, have you got the ultimate combo and that's it for you, or have you got aspirations for what you might get down the line? Or
Yeah, well, I've been fortunate to I've endorsed a bunch of different companies like Mesa Boogie and ZT Amps and
Hmm.
MXR, a couple other people. LHT Guitars is my signature model guitar. So I've been fortunate to get out to the NAMM show every year down in LA, which is just this enormous trade show where you can play whatever you want. You can play car amps, you can play Morgan amps, you can play I mean, literally anything you want at any price, really. I've played $100,000 guitars there. I've played, I've tried every Strat, every this and that. So I've gotten a chance to really plug in and try quite a few things. And after searching and going back and forth, I really enjoy a hollow body arch top, maybe an ES335 or something like this, um, into a Mesa Boogie with that's clean, that's overdriving a little bit. I mean, when I went to go searching to buy a new amp, I tried all kinds of different ones. I thought I wanted a Vox amp or maybe a Supro, and I plugged them in. And I'm like, nope, this isn't it. Tried all kinds of different things. I think Fender amps sound too Fendery. They just sound really Fendery. So I try
yeah,
to avoid that. I want to sound like myself.
do you know, as you said that and you were talking about different amps and the Mesa Boogies, I was just thinking to myself, actually, I'm surprised you haven't used the Fender Twin. And then you automatically came up with Fender's Not Me, and I thought, well, that answers that question then.
Yeah, no, I mean, Fender makes a couple good amps, like a deluxe reverb, a really nice deluxe reverb can sound really open. But for the most part, I just think Fender amps make everybody sound like they're playing through the same amp. And whereas I think like a Vox amp or an Orange amp is more open to the player and lets the player really come out and let the player tone come out. I feel the same way about Stratocasters as well. I'm not a fan of Stratocasters. I
Hmm.
think they just sound like a Stratocaster, whereas you play a different type of guitar and it's just more, and then you get to hear the player more. So yeah, I really love the sound I get from my Mesa Boogie into a hollow body archtop guitar. That's kind of it. I mean, there's a lot of other ones that achieve that same kind of sound and do it well, but I'm very happy with that sound. And then for smaller gigs, I have the little ZT Lunchbox amp, and that actually does a fantastic job as well. So I bring that out and gig with that quite a bit.
So we've mentioned some of your uh, endorsements. So you got Mesa Boogie, LHT guitars, Dunlop, ZT amplifiers, Emerald guitars as well.
Emerald guitars, yeah. I have a 8-string carbon fiber from them, and I really love it. They're a company out of Ireland, and they really do fantastic work. I mean, it's ridiculous how good those instruments are.
Reunion Blues. Well,
Yeah, Reunion Blues does gig bags. That's a really hard thing to show when you're doing
yeah.
when you're doing like online things. Because normally I'm sporting my Reunion Blues gig bag like right there. You know, it's sitting right there behind me while I'm playing the gig, so they get quite a bit of press. But in these kind of gigs, in the online gigs, you don't see them as much. But they make just incredible quality gig bags. I think they have a video of someone dropping an acoustic guitar off a three-story building in the gig bag, and it's fine. It works fine.
Right.
So.
We'll have
They
to
do
give
some
them.
good stuff. I also have custom pickups from EMG. So like I said, this is actually
Yeah.
wound by the owner. So when I asked for, I was like, hey, just make me a 6 string pickup, you know, and I just won't use that sixth string. It'll be fine. He's like, no, 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 you're getting a whole new instrument, a custom instrument. I'll wind you a 5 string guitar pickup. So this is made a 5 string guitar pickup and a 3 string bass pickup. And it's based on, I wish I could tell you the exact model, but I don't remember the EMG models because I have some EMGs in my other guitars. I was like, this sounds great. Make it sound like that. So he's like, okay, cool. I'll try and make it sound like that. So yeah, I endorse them. And then Jim Dunlop, I use Dunlop strings and quite a few Dunlop effects as
And
well.
Ossiamo, what's that?
Yeah, Osiamo does a whole bunch of different companies. They do More Audio, which makes those tiny little ones. They also do Hot Tone little pedals as well. Pick Boy, a couple different companies kind of fall under them. So I do some stuff, work for them on occasion, which is really fun. They're great to work with as well.
Excellent. And lastly, if you could do a duo album with anybody, any guitarist, any singer, past or present, who would it be?
Wow, past or present. That's interesting. You know, questions like that make me wanna work harder because I think a lot of the musicians that I'd like to work with are are living. But I mean, it would be hard. I hold. You really hit me with quite the question. That's like asking your favorite song. It's like I don't
Yeah.
know, but I think to work with Miles Davis in any aspect, in any, I don't even care. I don't even care if he plays horn or if he just yells at me and tells me what to do. Because I think that was one of his really great strengths was not just playing, but bringing. He would bring the right players for the right project and then let them be them. So I would love to work with Miles above all. I mean, he just his concept of composition and
Mm,
playing and everything is just otherworldly for sure. I
mm.
mean, it's just really impressive. I mean, I got a whole bunch of other number one people that I'd like to work with as well. James Brown and any kind of drummers like Stanton Moore or something like that. But yeah, no, Miles Davis would be where it's at, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so by the time this is out, I'll have my new single out, and it's a new tune called Couch Time. It's a tune that I just wrote while I was hanging out on the couch with my animals, with my wife, watching Netflix, and as we all have been doing. So just trying to kind of incorporate the concept of that. So take a look at that on Spotify, Bandcamp, Apple Music, everything. That'll be out about when this comes out. So please check that out. Yeah, well, this is just going to be a single. I mean, I'm trying to release things kind of as often as possible back and forth here. This is going to be, as far as genre, I don't know. What do you call the genre? That's actually one of the hardest things that I have trouble with when I'm booking gigs. It's like, oh, well, what kind of music do you do? Well, I don't do singer-songwriter. I don't do contemporary this and that. I kind of do all a little bit of everything.
Mm,
So if I can get a good, 2 or 3 word name for the genre of music that I play, that would be great. I kind of just say instrumental grooving music is kind
mm.
of what I'll say for the most part. So that's really what it is. It's kind of this kind of groove. That kind of groove thing. So that's kind of the intro to that tune. So whatever you call that kind of music, that's what this tune will be.
Oh,
That's the
it's
kind of music I play for the most
jazzy, it's bluesy, it's funky, it's lush.
part. Yeah, that's the goal. That's what I'm looking for. Bluesy, funky, yeah, something like that.
Bluesy, funky, lush. That's what I'm going to call it. I've just created a whole new genre for you.
I like it. I'll put that down. Bluesy, funky, lush. That's right. As long as you
Bluesy.
don't think I drink too much, then that'll be fine.
So we've got a few members' questions. Christopher Hughes has asked, he'd like to know what special exercises you do to strengthen and improvise or improve the independence between your bass and melody lines.
Yeah, that's a cool question. I appreciate that. And that's one of the biggest things that I'll talk about when I'm doing lessons, because strength is a really big part of it. Normally, you're used to doing this. And strength doesn't just mean strong, it also means control of the muscles,
Hmm.
being able to really get them to do exactly what they want. So, what I tell people to do is I tell people to take whatever exercise, whatever finger style exercise they may be doing, whatever, not finger style, just whatever left hand finger exercise they may be doing, whether it's chromatic or scales or anything like that, and try and add a baseline into it. You can do that quite a bit. So let's say you're doing something as simple as just trying to warm up your hands with just these four fingers. So maybe you're doing, that. Well, there's no reason why you can't, instead of picking that back and forth, there's no reason you can't do that with your fingers and then add a baseline as well. So that kind of thing, just kind of adding that. And then also most of it comes from barring. That's kind of where I'd start. So I bar a lot of things to where I've got this, and then I'll do an alternating bass line. So something like that. That kind of concept where you're just doing it at the same time, and I'll just set that with the metronome and kind of go around for a long time, just waking up these fingers, getting everything to work together, kind of. So any kind of exercise like that, any exercise that you may do already, something like that. Once I've warmed up, that kind of thing, yeah.
Me,
So I'll do that, and just doing that to a metronome, slow, fast, loud, quiet, that can really do quite a bit. And I obviously need to do a little bit of that today. So I'll warm up and do some of that after we get off this call.
you make it look too easy. John McCulloch asks, he says, how much more has playing an eight string opened his understanding of his instrument or changed his playing or how he views it? You're somewhat limited, I suppose, with six strings, but with eight strings, there's so much more choice, options, features. So then again, it opens up new avenues, doesn't it? So has
Yeah,
that
well,
opened your approach to the guitar?
Well, it's interesting. You talk about the eight string having more features and abilities. That's true. And really, what I have though is I have a five string guitar because it's tuned, and a three string bass kind of on the same neck. So, and that's really how I view it. So I don't look at it as an eight string guitar. I look at it as a three string bass tuned E A D, and then a five string guitar tuned A D G B E. So in that case, I actually have only a five string guitar. So I actually have some limitations and less than a six string guitar, but I'm also playing with a bass player as well. So that's really how I view this instrument and I never do like guitar runs that go from the bass strings to the guitar strings because it's coming out of different amps and different effects. So that would be really weird. So I keep the bass and the guitar completely separate and really look at it as two different instruments. So I'm constantly thinking as to how the two instruments interact. And what needs to be happening and what are we actually listening to right now,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So I think you really can't put too much of an emphasis on understanding just the role of how bass can affect it. It really, you have low notes with a regular six string guitar,
Yeah.
but with the eight string guitar you have notes that are an octave lower, which really just translates to having more weight. So when you have more weight, you're allowed, it is easier to give your playing context, if that makes sense. So that's really, so the bass strings, so although I look at it as only a five string guitar and not a six string guitar, so it's actually more limited, I do really appreciate the context that can be provided by the bass. So what I mean by that is, let's say you have some sort of line like you've got something like that going on, and that makes a lot of sense. But you can really change everything of how that sounds. Like you can make it kind of a hokey, kind of a country type of thing, or you can do like or you can put a bass note that's out of key, like just change everything and give it context. And whereas normally you may be playing something like a, so you can play a little bit of melody, a little bit of chords, but once you have the bass, then it really changes everything. So that kind of thing. So it just changes everything, and it's always interesting. What like I said, what are you listening to? Are you listening to the melody, or are you listening to the bass? Are you listening to both at the same time? And that
Mm.
interaction. So it just it so playing this instrument makes me think of music like more like a record producer as opposed to an individual musician, because I'm
Mm.
trying to think about the volume, the tone, the feel of two different things interacting
It's
at the
incredible.
same time, as opposed to just doing my thing and expecting everybody to get on my train and figure
Mm.
that out, or this and that, or back me up appropriately. No, I'm gonna back myself up, and but then how do you do that, and what are you doing, and how much space do you leave, and is it necessary to play this exact bass line, or can you play a simplified bass line? What does actually the song call for?
Mm.
And because of this, and I have a five-string guitar versus a six-string guitar, I'm doing some compromises that I'm not, and trying to do the bass allows me to do more sound, but it makes it harder to do specific guitar parts. So if you want me to play, like I'm saying, like Dire Straits stuff, if you want me to do exactly what he's doing, I can't do exactly what he's doing while having the bass, while having percussion, everything like that. So the more complicated the guitar part, the harder it is for me to do an arrangement of the tune.
Mm.
But that's just basically what it is I'm thinking about the arrangements, and I'm thinking about the duality and how everything interacts with itself, from melodically, but also rhythmically, how everything is getting together. So,
Okie doke. Look, thank you very much for giving us your time and
oh
telling us
yeah,
a bit more about you, and also playing that wonderful guitar, and especially some of the Eastern Indian music you did as well. It just hypnotizes me. It's just fantastic. So I feel very fortunate uh, to had that experience tonight. And what we're going to do I think it's January, what we've booked up, we're going to do a guitar lesson, aren't we?